Hey everybody, how's it going? It is December 21st. There's a Christmas right around the corner. And in the house with us, we've got a Corbin.
Hello, Christmas Corbin.
Christmas Corbin. Yes, he has lights and nothing else.
Though there's a very small tree next to my TV.
Oh yeah, okay, that was hidden by
Yeah.
your chair.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes, and then you can't see, but I do have a string of Christmas lights behind my desk, which actually is helping with lighting with my face because this is a dark corner of the room. So I should probably keep this, but I'm not going to. And then I have another string of lights on the back, which no one else in my apartment complex that I can see, or at least in my building and the building across, has done. So I'm officially the most festive person here in terms of outdoors. I don't know
Okay.
what everyone's doing inside, but very disappointing.
um, I don't know what to make of that, but very
It means I'm the best, Cody.
that is actually what it means. So I am gonna take the one moment to talk about, or to take advantage of TV fiction and say, you said we couldn't see the lights that were behind your desk, but if somebody zooms in very carefully on your eyes and uses the infamous enhance feature, they can see every single light
Yeah,
reflected in the eyes.
it's true.
Which I'm saying somewhat jokingly, but in all seriousness, I actually can't see a reflection in your eyes. There is
Yes.
very clearly actually a reflected line of light.
Yeah, and I'm still on my trusty Logitech webcam from like 10 years ago.
You know what? It so works. That's the secret to all of it.
It does. I'd like to get a new one sometime because I did really like that Razer one that had a ring light in it, but then it broke, and this didn't. So,
I would kind of like to get a new webcam, but in
I
truth,
was
I don't really
very
want to.
tempted by that like deal there was last week or whatever for lights I put on top of the monitor, but I'm like, I just spent a lot of money on Christmas stuff. I'm not really in the mood for this right now.
Right.
So that's going in the tracking for later.
The
I'll
truth
buy
of the
it if
matter
it goes
is,
on sale.
like, I would like to get a new webcam, but more than that, I'd really rather just set up a proper camera and use it as a webcam. But I'm lazy, and I just don't want to do that.
That's true. Whenever I get if I ever get like a good iPhone, like not my not my SE, then I would have a much better webcam because I can do the continuity thing now.
I suppose that's
Um,
true too.
Yeah, but like if I use this right now, I believe it would be about the same as this webcam for video,
Pretty
or
much.
pretty close. It's gonna be close. I don't. Well, I don't. It's mostly like the lighting is the thing that would have to change because this phone also isn't that good in dark lighting
Right.
because it's a smartphone.
Well, and it's a low-end smartphone.
Yep.
Well, by Apple standards. And they said that they use the same camera as whatever contemporary model, but I would beg to differ. There was pretty
Yeah,
good
it's just the
signs
one.
there were pretty good signs it just wasn't the same.
Yeah,
Or
it's
like
good,
maybe it
it's
was
good,
maybe it was the low
Yeah.
bin parts or something. I don't know. But
Yeah.
anyway, so
Anyway.
fun fact, literally all the news of the year actually happened this week. It was a huge week, big week. I am lying my ass off. Nothing effing happened this week, practically.
Which is surprising because there was like more than we expected last week.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of, I guess that's what happened. It evened out.
Well, the reality is there have only been 2 stories for the past week. It's really just Elon Musk with Twitter and Sam Bankman-Fried being anything but Fried. That's practically all anybody wants to cover. And holy crap, we're tired of it. We're so effing tired of it.
Well, I'll be untired of it when the rich people lose everything. But until then, yes, I'm. Can we skip to that part? That's what I'm waiting for.
Well, to be fair, some of the rich people did just lose all of it thanks to Sam Bankman-Fried.
Mm-hmm.
He was
Austin's username is stuck because of YouTube's anti-spam changes. Sorry, I'm sorry, Neg.
Hey, that's interesting. I didn't think that they would be too dickish about username changes. My question is, what is the rate at which they restrict username changes? Is this like a you're not allowed to change more than once a month thing? Is this a you're not allowed to change more than once every hour?
Austin said it's a net energy gain. My apologies for not pronouncing that correctly.
Okay. Oh yeah, from the nuclear fission versus fusion story. That's what it was.
Well, I don't have a segue, but should I shill for me first?
That's actually literally I already had that page up. Not for any particular reason. That's just what I happened to open.
And then we can talk about the other Mastodon thing, and then other stuff.
Sure.
Perhaps.
Yes. No, actually, I agree to this decision.
Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna start with shilling Corbin's thing, and it's a extension, a Google Chrome extension, and someday for Firefox.
Yes. So one of my frustrations with Mastodon, especially when I was using it at the same time as Twitter, which is no longer the case, but when it was always very annoying to share stuff where I'm usually, like, at least on a computer. On phones it's easier with the apps, but on a computer I'm copy pasting the link. I'm probably pasting the title because a lot of Mastodon apps don't have link previews. And it was just kind of annoying, so I made a browser extension called Share to Mastodon, where if you are on a page, any web page, you can click the button it adds and it will fill out a Mastodon post for you, and you can modify it or change the privacy settings or whatever, and then click the button and it's posted. So same thing as like all of the like share to Twitter buttons and like Facebook and all that other stuff that you see on websites. It's just that's not common for Mastodon. Number one, because it was not popular until very recently, and number two, for this to work, it has because Mastodon's not centralized, so part of the URL to bring up this prompt depends on what server you're on. So my extension, there's a setting where you just type in whatever server you're on, and then it's saved forever. It's even synced to your Google account, so you never have to do it again.
Which, yes, helps a lot. Wait, actually, it just occurred. It occurs to me, I didn't know that was possible purely because so many extensions I've had in the past do not do that.
Yeah.
And it's infuriating.
I know there's like a data limit. I forget what it is, but
I'm sure it's fairly small.
Yeah, it's mostly just supposed to be for like settings. So that's a cool little tool, and you can click the button in the it's not Omnibar anymore. I don't know what Google calls that area where the extension buttons are, but you can click the button up there, or you can right click on a link in a web page to do the same thing. Or if you select text and then click the Mastodon option in the right click menu, it will quote the text and put the link in the post. So, pretty cool. Austin said, "How do we pay you $8?" There is donate links in the extension.
Can you be paid specifically $8?
You can put in however much money you want, as a matter of fact. Oh, good lord, did you just do that?
Wait,
oh,
what?
It's for Tag Tales. Austin used the donation option for Tag Tales and did $8. Thank you, Austin. But yeah, so that extension is on Chrome. It just got approved for Microsoft Edge today, which is the first thing I've published for Edge. I wasn't sure how much of a pain that was going to be, but turns out it's pretty quick. And I'm not anticipating like releasing a lot of updates for this, so I'm not really worried about it being a pain to do this for every browser repeatedly. And there's also a Firefox version is waiting to be approved by Mozilla. So,
okay.
Yep.
I feel like I wanted to say something, and I am totally blanking on anything to add to that.
I know there's been some minor feature requests. I can't really do a lot with like the posting part because the Mastodon post thing doesn't like have any options I can fill up besides text. Like someone mentioned, it might be cool to like add a content warning by default, but I can't do that. One thing I was looking into is,
aren't content warnings shaped the same way they are in Discord? Like, can't you throw like some symbols around text to auto content warning? Huh. Interesting. I thought that was a thing.
I don't believe so. But yeah, you can click content warning on the pop-up that comes up. I just can't do it automatically. One thing also I was looking into was if it could pass the sharing to open a Mastodon app if you had it installed and not just the web UI. Like it'd be kind of cool if you had the Mastodon app installed on your Mac and clicking this would open it in the app. You can't do that with the official app. It seems like maybe when as far as I can tell, there aren't really any third-party clients that will do that, and sharing is kind of messy like that. It does seem like Ivory will support that on Mac, which is the Mastodon app that the guy from Tweetbot is making. But that's one app. I was kind of hoping I would have something that would work for all of them, but that's not possible.
Yeah, and sort of tangentially, I was actually thinking about making my own Mac app because if you've looked at the Mac App Store for Mastodon apps, it's bleak. I've got 2 different ones installed right now, and both of them for one reason or another, I consider completely unusable. Note, I am still using them, but that's not the point. So yeah, the only thing is I figured there was almost inevitably the odds that somebody major was going to make a Mac app fairly soon. It's like, yeah, it's not worth my time if I'd be competing against somebody that big.
Yeah, the Ivory app looks really impressive. I got into the test flight beta on iPhone, and it's pretty good, but I don't use like a lot of like social media stuff from my phone. Really, it's mostly just on the computer. So, mostly waiting for the Mac app.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the thing I made, and there was other Mastodon stuff happening as well.
Yes, Mozilla, come be the bad or something in this story. Do you want to tell it or?
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
There's been a couple companies that have popped up over the past month or so to support Mastodon in either like promoting it as like a feature or sometimes spinning up servers. I know um, Vivaldi, the web browser, recently spun up a Mastodon server. And at the same time, they shipped Mastodon integration in their web browser, which is just they put Mastodon on the side, which you could already do. So that's maybe not that. My extension is actually Mastodon integration, actually. So take that, Vivaldi. But, yeah, so Mozilla's I believe they've had like Mastodon accounts for a while, I think. But they said, was this was yesterday, that they are going to create a Mastodon server that you could create an account on and hang out on sometime early next year, they said. And they said the website will be mozilla.social. So they said Mozilla will stand up and test a publicly accessible instance in the Fediverse at mozilla.social. We're eager to join the community in growing, experimenting, and learning how we can together solve the technical, experience, and trustworthiness challenges inherent in hyperscale social systems. And then a lot of other words.
Yeah. So they don't really give any context for why they're doing this. Just sort of implying basically that they're doing it because it's good and it's helpful and so on and so forth, and kind of implying like all those corporate controlled social media are bad because they're bad, and therefore we're a corporation and we're gonna do this and somehow it's good. So setting aside that sort of discommunication, I just actually don't see a reason for them to do this. And my first instinct was basically this was like that Steve Buscemi meme. How do you do, fellow kids? Like, it has that we're jumping on the train because there is a train sort of vibe. Like, they're trying to be like cool because this is the cool thing, but it does not actually make them cool.
Right, like their blog post kind of explains that like they see the problems in centralized social media and they want to do something about it, but there isn't like a new problem here really. It's just that Twitter specifically got much worse in a very short amount of time. So it does feel, like you said, like kind of like bandwagoning, and like obviously I think it's probably a good thing if they want to set up a server, because Mastodon is still lacking capacity in a sustainable manner. So like I don't really care for Vivaldi like as a company. I think they're fine. You know, I don't really love that the browser isn't open source, but whatever. They seem okay. So if they want to spin up a giant server that takes a load off like some like one-person teams who are running a server in the spare time from their 40-hour work week, that's cool. I kind of feel the same way about Mozilla, except I don't like you were kind of saying this earlier, but there's like one of two things that could happen here. Either this is a loss leader, to use a business word, in an effort to gain goodwill for other projects, which I don't love. Or the other alternative, they're hoping this turns into like a sustainable part of their company, which means advertising or some kind of tracking or something, unless they like get a lot of donations from this. I don't know.
Yeah, so I don't know. I was kind of spitballing this earlier. I see basically three ways that this kind of turns out. One is, yeah, the loss leader. It's they're basically going to take on the cost of running an instance with no real return, which then just becomes a new bill for them to pay, which Mozilla is already basically kind of panhandling for cash, so that's not smart, and I kind of don't think that would make sense as a plan. The second thing is they could be using this as a way of sort of a new way to, well, panhandle for donations, so to speak. They could be either, let's say, like, this is a publicly accessible server, but that doesn't mean that they won't necessarily charge for accounts. They could attach a subscription, or they might make it sort of the incentive to donate, which is exactly the same thing as charging for accounts, but calling it a donation with the implied, like, you will get an account among other perks if you donate. Exactly like
Right.
Patreon, basically. The third possibility is, kind of what you were just leading towards, which is they could just turn this into sort of a tracking, or something a little on the shadier side. That's not completely evil, but it just feels a little ickier. And it might be something you could opt out of, or something like that. I don't know, but yeah, somehow I just don't see this being a ultimately good thing for them to do.
I could see also a possible fourth option where this is advertised as like one of many things you get with a Firefox subscription. Because that's been like their main angle for the past couple years, because they can't make money with Firefox. It's not doing well. So they've pivoted to services. They bought Pocket, which is like you can pay for that. They currently sell a VPN that's a white label of another VPN. So I could see them, making like an Apple One of Mozilla things, and it gets you Pocket and some Firefox stuff and a account on here with like a cool badge or something. I don't know.
Yeah, which again, I mean, that's still the same thing. It's still selling an account. It's just you're bundling it as part of a subscription, which I will say though, that is probably the smartest thing that you can bundle into a subscription, because nobody wants to give up their social media account, so they'll keep paying the monthly cost on it.
Yeah, like any of those seem possible, but like, I mean, yeah, like you were saying, this isn't like a Mozilla like market. Like, this is presumably they wouldn't be developing a lot of software here, and that's kind of their remaining strong suit, is software development. And they're here trying to like build a like community hub, which they have done with a lot of stuff. And I haven't had enough exposure to their stuff to see if they're good at doing that. But it doesn't. I don't know. Like, I'd be less conflicted about this if Mozilla wasn't in such a weird place that makes me sad. Like, they've been suffering for a long time because Google's eating their lunch, which I understand, but at the same time, they keep putting a lot of like data analytics stuff into Firefox, which compromises the whole like privacy thing they're going for. I put analytics in my stuff sometimes without an opt-out, but I'm not saying I'm a private web browser, right? Yeah. And also, you can just like ad block all my shit. I don't care. And like at the same time, like they're doing this weird thing where part of Mozilla is a non-profit and then part of it is for profit, and I don't really know how that works, but some of the stuff is under the for-profit camp and some of it isn't. Their Thunderbird mail app that they forgot about for like 10 years got moved to the for-profit part, I think last year or the year before, and now it's getting a lot of development, but I'm pretty sure that's because at some point they want to try to charge for it. Or they're right now they're like using the much more rapid development and the staff they're bringing on as a reason for donations. So I don't know how long that's going to last, but I don't know. I feel kind of icky about Mozilla at this point, and it feels bad because I don't want to, but I really don't want to give them like donations like they're like, you know, scraping together money to fight Google while their CEO has like gets paid multiple millions of dollars every year. Like they're pretty close to just a normal tech company at this point.
Yeah, there's a weird level of sort of backsliding that they did, and it's not that that's unexpected. It's not that it's unreasonable for them to have to kind of go into survival mode. It's just they're trying to still spin this story in almost a marketing level.
Yeah.
Of we're the good guys, everyone else is evil. Yeah. But don't look over here while we do the occasional evil thing that everyone else also does. It's not actually that evil. It's just we're going to keep calling it evil, except when we do it.
Right. It's what everyone else does, except we say everyone else sucks when they do it. And also we didn't used to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, like Mozilla to me is kind of in the same mental space as like Adobe. They're not quite that bad, but it's in the same thing of like, I really want you guys to be better because I sometimes like what you do, but you're making it really difficult. They're not nearly as money grabbing as Adobe yet though. So they have that going for them. But I'm equally as disappointed.
The only reason I struggle with the Adobe comparison is just because they are such completely different types of entities. I think they both have problems and they're both doing things wrong, but I think Adobe the issue, I know exactly what the issue for me is. With Mozilla, the issue is it's basically hypocrisy, but otherwise what they're doing is more or less kind of okay. Adobe's issue has nothing to do with hypocrisy. They don't deny for a second that they are money grabbing. They are manipulative of the market. They're pretty much actually like face first welcoming any criticisms of this and then saying, if you're too poor to afford our subscription, GTFO.
Yeah, right. That was a bad comparison. Also, because Adobe is the market leader everywhere it is, and Mozilla is not.
Yeah, so. Mozilla is objectively the underdog in this. Adobe is anything but the underdog, at least
which
for now.
Again is like why I want to like them, but they make it so incredibly difficult.
Like which one? That could be said about either. Okay.
I don't want to like it. Well. I don't want to learn other tools. Let me put it that way for Adobe. I'm like, look, I've used Photoshop since I was like 12. Don't make me learn another thing.
Basically, yeah. Oh man, and I see so many cool things in Affinity Photo, and then I sit down to use it and it's like, wait, how do I do this simple thing? Oh my god, that's how you do it? You have to do that much to do this simple thing? Now I'm angry. That's been my experience with multiple things in Affinity so far.
So yeah, I don't know. There's I saw I don't know where, I can't think of what exact server it was, but I saw there was messages going around about a like venture capital company just bought a couple big instances, big Mastodon servers. Like they bought Mastodon.cloud. So I think we might be entering an era of Mastodon going corporate, which is going to be very interesting to watch.
I mean, I did predict this.
Yeah. I mean, it was probably inevitable.
Well, the issue with Mastodon has been since day one, how is this going to make money? Because it's expensive to run, and it's going to get a lot more expensive.
Not make money, but how to break even is probably a better way put that. Although there's some companies now who just would, I'm sure, would like to make a profit off this stuff.
Yeah, that's the thing. Nobody wants to break even when you have to also put in a ton of work in administration and moderation and possibly legal fees, which is what that Wired article from today, I think it was. Did you see that?
Yeah, that was a good article.
I thought it was a kind of actually a crap article, but they brought up the valid point of if you have a service where users are posting things, even if you overlook the Section 240 protections, the fact of the matter is, you're eventually going to get sued. Like, there are going to be legal fees associated with all of this, and that is a cost a whole lot of people are not going to want to take on. So,
yeah, and there is a few companies who have made money off of this tech stack already, like Gab and True Social.
Wait, has True Social actually made money? I thought they were. I thought they were just kept losing more and more of their investors' money.
Maybe at some point they made money. I don't know.
I had assumed Gab made a little bit of money, but then probably lost it as they just keep hitting stumbling block after stumbling block. But
yeah, you can only sell so many ads to the MyPillow guy before you can't do it anymore.
Oh, I'm sure they're selling ads for the NRA too.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I don't know. They're not doing great.
No kidding.
They might have had their advertising budget slashed.
Has anyone checked for SpaceX ads?
Oh no.
Somewhere deep down, everyone gets that reference.
all that.
All that money's going to Twitter, I know.
Yeah, they're buying all the ad blocks on Twitter.
All the taxpayer money is going to Twitter. Anyway, so
platforms.
But in all seriousness, I really do think that the inevitability with Mastodon, and this is not the only problem I think Mastodon has. I've gone off on multiple micro rants about different problems, but I think ultimately one of the biggest things that will just keep coming back is that for Mastodon to go the distance, there's going to have to be money. There's going to have to be some return on investment. Some people are absolutely doing it because they want to support or some people are running servers because they want to support a genuine, like, open internet that doesn't have all of these special interests associated with it. But realistically, there are people spending anywhere from a couple hundred to now a few $1,000s in hosting costs per month to run servers. And donations right now are good, and people are donating to things. And whether that's covering the cost, I doubt it, but let's pretend it's at least getting close. Give it a year. Give it 2 years. That's not going to last. People donate now because they feel good about it. People will not be donating in nearly the same numbers in a couple years. And at that point, there's going to have to be some profit model coming back.
There's a lot of, like, Mozilla adjacent organizations that I think could potentially do this well, who already have a business model of, like, volunteers and soliciting donations and that kind of, like, I'm curious if, like, Wikimedia would ever make a Mastodon server. That could be interesting.
Again, what are the restrictions or limitations on this? Because, I mean, are you talking about it's fully open to the public? Are you talking about something that's...
I think it could be fully open.
And is this donation or account sale associated, or is this...
Well, if it's from Wikimedia, it'd be donations,
But
yeah.
To be more clear on that, are they effectively selling an account attached to a donation, or are they? Is it like you don't have to spend a dime, you can just open an account, but they really encourage donations too.
I think it would be that. I think like if Wikimedia made a server, it would be like Wikipedia, where you can go there and make an account, but they will very, very much ask you to please give them money to pay for everything. Um, and
Well,
I'd probably trust Wikimedia to be a little bit better with the finances there than Mozilla.
well, yeah, that's that that's a low bar, fortunately. Um,
Especially because I saw the tweet from the Wikipedia founder, who was like, someone I don't know if they were joking or not, but someone said that Elon should buy Wikipedia, and he just quote tweeted that person, said, "No, it's not for sale. Go away."
oh, that's what that was about. Okay, I didn't know what the reference was, but I saw just the text of the "No, it's not for sale. Go away" or something like that.
Hmm. Yeah, so it's gonna be an interesting thing to watch happen. Especially whenever Tumblr finishes their activity pub stuff, because if they do it properly and they're seen as a Mastodon server to everyone else. I know it's activity pub server, whatever. Then immediately Tumblr would become the most popular activity pub service, which could change the like culture of this whole thing quite a lot. So that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it certainly could. I guess they would. Huh. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they go about this. Um,
Yeah, yeah, because I don't like they, they've only said activity pub support. It's not really clear what that means. Like I'll
yeah,
mention this later, but it's like Matter, where you can say Matter support, and that could mean any number of things, including things you wouldn't think of as support.
right. Yeah,
So, like Flickr. Well, no, I was thinking of a different thing, but yeah, we'll see. Speaking of platforms, HBO.
Oh wow, you picked exactly what I did not think you were going to go to. Because we have
I like
topics
to
for
mix it up.
Chrome and Matter both, and then you're like, oh sure, let's go to HBO.
Sure. We like to. I'm switching up your expectations, Cody.
Yes, you are. Okay, sure, we can go to the one that's actually going to take us a while.
Yes.
So HBO, they've kind of gained a reputation lately for being the dumb streaming network that is unloading all of their content, but anything that is not an HBO exclusive that they produced, they're basically unloading it and saying, we don't want to pay for this anymore. Someone else take it as quick as possible. And as a result, they have unloaded the biggest name thing so far has been very obviously Westworld. Westworld left HBO. I believe it was 2 days ago. I would have to check, but it very literally happened while I was watching Westworld. Fortunately, it let me finish the episode I was on, but as soon as it finished, it wouldn't load the next episode, and when I went to look, and I had a suspicion this is what it was, but when I went to look, Westworld did not show up in search, it did not show up in my list, it didn't show up anywhere. It was just gone. So, yeah, this is the new reality for the streaming network. It's dumb.
Yeah, they removed dozens of shows already, including like a lot of shows and movies that aren't legally available elsewhere. Especially shows, like not a lot of shows get like DVD releases anymore.
Yeah.
I know there was at least a few like animated stuff that like the creator was on Twitter being like, "Yeah, there's no way for you to buy my thing anymore Hope you find it on a pirate service.
Yep.
But yeah, they took off. What, of course, they canceled the Batgirl movie that was supposed to come out on HBO Max. They killed off Westworld. They killed Raised by Wolves, which was another pretty big show.
I'd actually never heard of that.
I haven't seen it, but that was pretty consistently in all the advertising I saw for HBO Max. And just a lot of other stuff. I'm still really surprised they took Westworld off, because that was like HBO's other show besides Game of Thrones for like the first and second season, especially as Game of Thrones started winding down.
You know, part of me is surprised by that, but another part of me looks at it and it's like, I totally get it. If there was any show that I would probably be looking to cut, I totally get why that is the one they picked. Because just objectively speaking, Westworld Season 1 was mind-blowing. Everyone loved it. It was huge. It was a massive success. Not to the level of Game of Thrones, but still, it was a like runaway success, huge hit. The problem was Season 2, and then Season 3, and finally Season 4. All seasons that basically did either critically horrible, in the case of Season 2, or viewership horrible, in the cases of Seasons 3 and 4, and I imagine eventually 2. At least in the prolonged sense. Which, for show as expensive as this was, you know that they had to be charging HBO a fair amount to keep it. So I do kind of get that.
And especially the last season, they just didn't advertise it. Like, I did not know there was a season 4 until like the day before it showed up on HBO. Which was such a massive drop from, like, I think they did Super Bowl ads for the first 2 seasons. Like,
probably
there was a very clear drop off there. I know there was at least one. I don't know which one.
Well, and just word of mouth for Westworld was insane. I mean, I even remember when I was introduced to it. A friend of mine drug me back to like after we'd gone out and hung out one night. We went back to her apartment and just watched an episode of Westworld, and it's like, okay, I get why people are talking about this. This is pretty damn amazing. But so many people talked about it. It kind of had that same effect as Sense8 when that first came out. Everyone talked about the show, and it was really worth it for the first season. And as much as Sense8 season 2 was actually also really good, it was an expensive show, and Netflix was like, yeah, we did it, we got a bunch of attention, we're not going to keep doing it because it costs too much.
Yeah, and it's like, it's not just like, oh, they're taking shows off a streaming service, like whatever, but it's like they're taking things off that they own, which so far is like pretty unheard of in this new streaming age. Like, like I don't, Netflix arguably has the most garbage that doesn't need to continue existing, but they're keeping it all because it's like still content that they paid for. And they're, so HBO's doing this while also removing all other distribution channels, which is especially weird because even for the shows and movies that are not on any streaming services, which are still a lot of, like, you can always find them on iTunes or Google Play Movies. I don't know what they call that now, but you know what I mean, that thing. And they're like pulling it from those places too, which is really, really weird.
Well, apparently, at least according to this article and some insiders, they are planning to launch fast plans, or get into fast, which loosely translated, think free streaming with ads. Sort of like Freevee. God, I hate that name. That name is such a terrible.
Yeah, it's like Freevee, it's like Pluto TV.
Yeah.
There's a couple things like this, but they did say, you know, when Warner, what is it? I forget. Warner Bros. Discovery is their new name.
Yeah.
When that company came into existence, they did say that, like, yes, we're gonna merge HBO Max and Discovery's thing, and there'll be a bunch of different tiers, and some of them will have like ads and like live content. I don't know if they explicitly said before that they were planning to release a like live with ads service. Like basically, if you're not familiar with any of these, it's like the experience of cable TV but worse. In that cable TV has like channels with like more than one thing on it, but all these services have like a channel that's just like, imagine a cable, but there's a channel that's just like Kitchen Nightmares, and that's it, and they just loop Kitchen Nightmares.
Yeah.
It's like that. I don't know if that's what they're gonna do, but like that's how most of these services work for like live stuff. And so they're working on, which is so at some point that's going to be the only way to legally watch Westworld. But they're not done with that yet. So for the moment, they're going to try to license some of the stuff they've canceled to other services that are like that. So maybe the Roku channel will have a Westworld channel soon. I don't know. And like some of the shows that they're licensing out, like some of them are like for sure canceled, like Westworld. Some of them were like halfway through production of another season, so they might like keep going. You know, this is another thing where like that thing is safe. Like a bunch of shows that were renewed got canceled. Some shows that were in the middle of filming are canceled now. Some of them that are in the middle got taken from HBO but might show up on another service.
Yeah, they're shuffling things around like a trading card game. It's
very confusing.
And being able to follow things from one network to another is going to be a mess. Which, look, this is already kind of a normal thing, sadly. But if you look around in the last few years, there have been a lot of network hops for various shows, and it's almost becoming a normal thing, which is terrible in a way. Like, in a way, it's also kind of good because it helps a show actually grow its viewership as opposed to shrink it. But it's obviously also terrible because you may have been really happy subscribing to one specific service, and then now if you want to keep following the 3 different shows that you really enjoy, you might now be expected to subscribe to 3 completely different services just because all of them got traded away. Not that I think we're actually anywhere near that point, or that we are going to reach that point, but it's starting to feel that way.
Yeah, and a lot of the like early trading stuff is shows and movies produced by something that does not have a vested interest in its own platform. Like my example for this for the longest time was Doctor Who, where I originally got into Doctor Who because it was on Netflix when I was younger, back when Netflix had just everything. And then at some point, Amazon Prime Video bought the rights, and I had to go buy a stupid fucking Fire TV because that was the only way to watch Prime Video on a television at that point. This was before they allowed casting or had apps on anything else. And then at some point, it got removed from there, and it moved to HBO. And now Disney has some kind of a deal with Doctor Who. I don't know if they get the whole back catalog, but they're helping produce the show now, and they'll put some of it on Disney Plus. I don't know how that works, but now it's especially weird when like something made for a company's own distribution is now being given to whoever, or just removed entirely. But like half these things have just been Thanos snapped out of existence, and you can't find them anymore.
Really quick, actually, on that point, you said earlier, pretty soon the only legal way to watch Westworld will be with a free service. Technically, you're wrong, sir. Blu-rays. As far as we know, they are still selling Blu-rays.
Yeah, as soon as this was announced, I was like, fuck, I better buy the Blu-rays I'm missing. So I did that. I unfortunately gave HBO money, but because I unfortunately have some stock in Warner, so I might have boosted my own stock. We'll see. I bought 2 Blu-rays. We'll see what that does.
Yes, you
But I actually don't know if the shows they pull from distribution also include disc sales, because like their whole thing is that they don't want to pay residuals for everyone who helped produce the show. I would assume they do that for disc sales too. So I don't know if they would like if I go to Amazon, they still have it in stock, but I don't know if that's old. I don't know if they're gonna keep producing this.
I have a hunch, and obviously it's no more than that, but my suspicion is they're probably going to keep doing sales, because you don't really pay an ongoing fee to sell more copies. You basically work out a contract, and then per copy sold, you pay a portion of that to whoever collects residuals. So whereas most streaming contracts, the deal is as long as you are hosting that, you typically are just paying some set amount, and it doesn't matter how many people watch it. Usually, though sometimes it does. Every streaming contract is different.
Austin said, someone mentioned that this is likely a negotiation tactic because all the major entertainment unions are up for renegotiations next year. Oh boy. Let me tell you, after all the U.S. rail strike stuff, I am eagerly excited to see what NBC has to say about those negotiations. Like, I can't.
I like that you picked
wait for
NBC.
Yeah, it's gonna
after
be
their
like
issue with the Teamsters.
Oh well, I wasn't making a specific reference.
Okay.
I'm just like the whole time that was going on, I was just like beyond. Like, this is one of the few things that I like get really annoyed when normal media covers, because like every time, like, because I have an antenna, I'm now an adult and sometimes turn on TV news, and every time when the rail strike negotiations got to like a tipping point, you know, it was on the news constantly, and it was always like, oh, we need to avoid disruptions, and it's like, okay, great, pay them. This is how you do. It was always treated as like a hurricane that was coming, like, oh, I hope the president does something. I'm like, fuck off, Lester Holt. That's not how you cover this. And I can't wait for them to treat like that the same exact way. They're like, we have to save our ability to stream Westworld. We need the president to step in. That's going to be great. I can't wait for that.
Yeah, there's so much of a who knows what's going to come of this kind of issue. You know, wow, it's not to change topics, and I'm not going to stay on this, but it just occurred to me. Chat is working for the YouTube channel, but chat messages are not appearing in the stream. So maybe that integration just got broken. Or maybe the was that Streamlabs? I think I was using Streamlabs for that. Maybe they're down or something. Anyway, something I'll look into probably never. Anyway, yeah. So,
I'm just sad about Westworld. That's my conclusion. So that's like I haven't watched season 4 yet. I'll do that whenever I go through all of them now that I have all of them. But Westworld is definitely one of my favorite shows made in the past 10 years or so.
It's one of your
a
favorites,
shame
but
that,
you still haven't seen season 4.
well, I'm gonna wait now because I I have it on the disc now, so I'm gonna wait until I can go through the entire show.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I always watched it like on something else because I never really had like an HBO subscription or anything like that, so I'd always catch it on something else. Um, but yeah, so it's frustrating that they just nuked it. I understand why they canceled it because I'm sure it was a lot of money to make, and they told enough of a story already. Yeah, but it's annoying. But seems a lot of shows I like are disappointing me in one way or another. So
So
I'm hoping Doctor Who will get back to being good soon.
well, narrator voice, it doesn't.
It doesn't.
So yeah, as it goes, HBO, I think, well, Westworld itself, I think I got my point across pretty well. Season 1 was incredible. Just without a question. Season 2 was good, but not easily approachable, and they just handled it so poorly. Then obviously with the set burning down, causing season 3 to become Cyberpunk 2077. I'm never going to get over that joke somebody made. Seasons 1 and 2 were Red Dead Redemption, and seasons 3 and 4 are Cyberpunk 2077. Anyway, yeah, season 3 just, it felt to me like it never really got its legs, and it wasn't really particularly good until like the very last episode. Season 4, I'll just say I'm watching right now, and I just watched the 4th episode, not last night, but the night before, and something happens. I will not spoil, but I will just say it has me wanting to go back and rewatch this season 4 from the beginning, just with the whole new understanding of a thing. They pulled a plot twist that is season 1 worthy, and yeah, it's. I feel like they came back. Like, season 4 is finally the Westworld that we all wanted back. And that's good.
Okay.
I'm actually excited to watch Westworld again, where seasons 2 and 3 just left me like, okay, now I'm just watching a show.
Did they lean back into the Western parts? Like, or is it still very much set in like real world future?
Okay, oh god. Okay, I'm going to, this isn't, I'm trying to find a way to say this without it being spoiler, and I think, actually I do know how to, well, I know how to say this. No, okay, I know how to say this because as far as I can tell, it's actually not really that big of a deal. But they do go back into a part, but it is not Westworld.
Okay. I see. Because I've seen some like, snippets of like screenshots whenever someone will write about Westworld, and they'll use stuff from the 4th season, and it doesn't look like the West, but
okay. And you know what? In which case, I can almost guarantee you have seen this, so I'll just. Again, I don't think this is a spoiler, but there's one particular. Oh, screw it. This is like a micro spoiler, but yeah, I'm not gonna give you enough that it matters. But if you're really sitting there with like, okay, is this the moment? Is this the moment? You'll figure it out. But they do go into the 1940s.
Okay. Okay. I see.
Yeah, they go into the park, and it's, instead of being Westworld, it's the 1940s. So, and I don't remember where it is, but I actually recognize the set because they are definitely using set that is a classic Hollywood set for this.
Right.
They just dressed it up for the 40s as opposed to wherever it normally is. So it's
that's always fun when you see the same like big outdoor studio. You're like, I know Warner has like 3 of these.
yeah.
Like I remember there was in Star Trek did this sometimes. Like this was always like the holodeck episodes when they're like, can we use our other sets? It's like, no, none of them are supposed to be in the 24th century. It's like, all right, holodeck episode time, baby.
Yep.
And there was a 2-parter in Star Trek Voyager where the plot is that some aliens who are like kind of like the Predator species, they like to like hunt other things. They take over the ship and they turn it into one giant holodeck, and they recreate like World War II. So the set is like a European town that they get to use for this episode. It was a very good 2-parter, but it is always funny when studios do that.
Yeah. Well,
that's good. I've never been a big like Western person. Like that whole category of movies is just kind of like not hit me at all. So I did appreciate as Westworld went on that they like went to other places.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of the reason I like season 3 more than it seems like most people like season 3. Is I'm like, all right, cool, we're in the outside now. Let's see what's going on. You know?
Yeah. No. And that's something I would have liked about season 3. That was never the problem for me with season 3. Season 3's problem to me was they never really made the characters whole.
Yeah, it was a little less thought out, I think.
Yeah, it felt rushed. To be fair, after season 2, I felt like season 2 they tried too hard to plan it and overdid it. And in the end, it just turned out to be too hard for audiences to really follow. Plus, they had that really stupid episode where they followed the native guy around, hardly had any English. It was a terrible episode. Sorry.
Yeah.
Don't at me. It was a terrible episode. But it was technically necessary. A-holes.
Yeah. I'm excited to watch that then. I need to speed up Doctor Who then. Well, I need to speed up Doctor Who also because Doctor Who is going to come back soon and will hopefully be good. Because they brought back the good writer.
Okay.
Yeah. And David Tennant for an episode.
I'll take your word for it. I will say, and again, I'm not surprised by this, but I'm slightly amused by the fact that, at least in this article, they're highlighting that The Time Traveler's Wife is among one of the shows that is being removed from HBO. And this is one of those shows, it was canceled almost immediately after they finished airing it. Which somehow,
yeah, I know,
like, it was a really good show. And I don't really quite get why they canceled it so quickly. But I can't help but think that this is that perfect example of it got hyped, it failed, and people seem to think it matters to HBO. It really did.
I know, like, I haven't seen this, but I know it's the show that Stephen Moffat made after he left Doctor Who, who was the showrunner for Doctor Who for a number of years. But yeah, well, I'll watch it on a pirate website at some point, maybe.
Yeah, it really is a good show, but I can see why audiences may not have loved it.
So that was a thing. Well, I have like 2 more things to talk about that probably won't take that long, and then I'll probably get food because I don't have any food in my house at the moment. And it's approaching 7 o'clock. So
Chrome, just to get it out of the way.
Sure, we can do Chrome.
And
Um,
this needs to take, I'm sure this will be literally a couple minutes because I don't
yeah.
even think I have things to say.
So Google Chrome is once again speeding up its release cycle. So they said this morning that they are basically their angle here is usually how Chrome works is you have a version that starts in like the dev canary channels and then it graduates to beta and then it goes to stable and that entire and like Chrome release stays in each of those channels for like I think it's 4 weeks or I think it's 4. I think I wrote 4.
Well, it looks like okay. Well, yeah. I think it's about a month for each.
Yeah. So what they're now tweaking that. So now a release needs to be done. Well, it goes from beta and then to early stable. And basically what this is they will roll out a Chrome release to a tiny number of people for a week. And if nothing catastrophic goes wrong, they'll push it to everyone. Which is how most software works now. But I mean, they were kind of doing this already. Like, well,
it was basically already happening
Chrome,
on Android.
Android definitely. Chrome would push to pretty much everyone, but like if you checked for it,
right?
It would take a couple.
It was a
more
lazy
days
push.
usually. Yeah. So what this means is that basically a release gets like a week cut out of development from beta to stable because they need a new week of padding to roll out to a small percentage of people. So now Chrome releases will come out every 3 weeks, basically. That's kind of crazy. I mean, that again, like they always do updates outside of that cycle. Like when someone finds a really bad bug in Chrome, they will release an update like immediately. But the major stable things that have new features or new APIs or whatever are now going to come even quicker.
Yeah. So correct me if I'm wrong, but they're not really speeding up Chrome releases per se, but they're just shortening the gap between beta and when something technically hits stable. And technically means more they're ramping up that path, and then the full rollout occurs a little bit later.
Right. Yeah. Like at let's say 10% of people will get this a week earlier now.
Right.
But that does mean that like the entire development cycle needs to happen before that, because the update that people get early needs to be the same one that everyone else gets later.
Yes, but to be fair, the way Chrome development cycle works is like nothing on the back end really changes. They're just going to keep building things the same way they've always built. This basically just says, hey, if you were in the betas, congratulations, your beta version or anything that goes into the beta version is going to basically just move to an early stable version a little bit faster than it would have before.
Yeah.
Which, all things considered, that basically just means their gap for bug detection on the beta version got shorter. But on the plus side, any developers whose responsibility it is to keep watch on the beta, on any bugs found in beta, they're now going to get a much larger audience to sort of check from, because it's just going to roll out to early stable a little bit earlier. To me, this isn't even really changing the stable rollout. This is changing beta.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because Google, the way Chrome is developed is so weird, and there's not really a lot of like similar cases for this, because like first of all, Chrome pioneered this idea of like we're releasing a thing on a day, like it's gonna come out that day whether there's like nothing new in it or if there's something new in it, it's just gonna come out. And also this it really got the ball rolling on automatic updates across like this whole industry.
That part I'll totally agree with.
And so it's been interesting seeing how Chrome like kind of adapts to that, where for most of the past couple years a feature will just like it's just like in Chrome, like you can't see it and they'll just flip the switch when they're ready. And I know like in the past I was kind of surprised the past like 2 releases or so they actually like pushed the go button on a lot of features. Like there was a few like really high profile things they rolled out in the past month or two, and none of them were at the same time as the update. Like Chrome Stable came out, and then a week later they announced, oh, there's the like you can track like shopping prices in Chrome now, and we're pressing the go button on that. So it's really interesting. There's like multiple stages of like a release, and this is like mudding that a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, like you said, like really, this isn't like really making anything like worse. It'll hopefully make things slightly better if there's more bug testing in the like absolute last leg of this development cycle.
I mean, that's 100% what this is about. And honestly, I'm gonna go out on a bit of a limb and say they probably don't have anyone use it, or well, obviously there are some people, but I bet that they're doing this because if you look at the number of people using Canary and Beta, or developer for that matter, I bet the numbers have probably dropped off, and they're probably looking at it basically saying, we just don't have enough people in Beta anymore, so let's just shave off some of that stable group and treat them as sort of beta, but not.
Yeah, like the next version, like I mean, like yeah, like they were kind of already doing that. It's just beta was opt-in.
Yeah, and that's the point. Like they didn't have people using. If you don't have people opting into your test group, then at some point you can either say, all right, the next time we push this, the entire world is our test group, or you can say, well, we're just going to take some unwilling participants and use them as a test group. And that's kind of what they're doing now.
Yeah, and you know they've done this for years with like some features, but definitely not like, oh yeah, a bunch of version will get an update before everyone else. Like that's just how we're doing this now.
Yeah, now they're just formalizing it, which in a weird way is good, but at the same time, honestly, I wish what they would have done is said, all right, we're going to do this thing, and it's now just going to be like a regular rollout. Everybody, no matter what, is part of this group. However, if you cannot be part of this for whatever reason, here's an option to opt out of being part of this group. And the reason they need to offer that is because there are people and organizations, companies, they kind of need their web browser to handle mission critical stuff, which, you know, let's not get too caught up in whether or not that's a good idea. But there should have been an opt out of this option. Like you should be able to go into settings and say, never ever put me into the early stable group. I need to be in stable.
There might be, I don't know. And they didn't say anything about that.
Exactly.
But, Chrome does have a extended support channel now. So like if you don't really care about getting new features quickly, you can switch to that, and you know, you'll only get like the most rock solid, you know, it's like the Debian of Chrome release channels. Like,
yeah,
you'll get an update at some point, but it's gonna work great in the meantime.
But yeah,
it's
if your company needs to have the absolute like just never gonna break version of Chrome, they need to have that. And this thought process comes from the fact that I literally worked or I did a contract job at a company where I wish I was kidding, but literally still used IE6 on some computers back in 2011, 2010, something like that. Because that was the thing that they knew worked, and they weren't going to mess with it. They were not going to load any other web browser on there. They were not going to try anything else. It was IE6 until things couldn't work anymore. And there are companies in that position, and I imagine the IT guys at those companies have to be constantly nervous about Chrome.
Yeah, and I mean that's why Edge still has an IE mode.
Yep.
And why Microsoft has said, like, every time they've said they're getting rid of IE, they're like, and the mode will stay in Edge. We promise we won't take it out.
Mm-hmm.
And like, yeah, that's always funny.
Yeah.
And you try not to think too hard about the fact that like the Internet Explorer engine is still like a critical Windows component. And if they take that out, then like a bunch of software is going to break, which is why they said they're definitely not doing that anytime soon. But also they're going to have to keep patching that.
Yeah.
For the rest of time. Yeah, it's great. It's really fun.
To some extent, I know that this is never realistically going to happen, but to some extent, just for those very narrow cases, I say narrow, but it literally accounts for probably hundreds of thousands of computers would benefit from this. And benefit is a stretch of the terminology, but to some extent, sometimes I kind of want to see companies just come out with like a version that is a lockdown final, like, you know what, this is Chrome whatever version, and we're releasing a solid library. It is this. You can build software for this. You should never build software that does these various things, because like if it takes user input, if it or certain types of user input, or if it could be exposed to the internet, there's the possibility of vulnerabilities. But if you need your software to work, it like for internal internets, things like that, go ahead and use this. They don't need to do this, but that would be ideal. And it's not like someone can't just download the source and do that for themselves, but that requires developers at a company to really waste a lot of time figuring out how to do that.
Yeah, and like from browsing perspective, that's what the extended release channel is supposed to be. And Mozilla has been doing this for years. I remember when I was using 10.4 Fox, which was a fork of Firefox intended to keep running on PowerPC Macs. They like, it was really funny. They would always like be based off of like the very, very last extended support release that Mozilla ever made. They would just keep like backporting stuff to that. It was great. I love programming. What I don't love is Matter.
Forced transition.
Thank you. I hate writing about this.
I don't think anyone likes writing about it.
No, like they sent me this embargo to write about, and I was like, I read it like 5 times, and I was like, what does this mean? What's new here? I don't understand. So Matter is the smart home software that's supposed to fix everything we hate about smart homes. Like all your stuff is in like one account and like maybe needs a very specific hub from one company, and they don't always like connect to the other stuff that well. And some stuff only works with Alexa and some stuff only works with Google Home. So Matter is supposed to be the thing that fixed everything. So far it hasn't really done that. We'll see what happens. But Google is one of the members of the big Matter group, the Connectivity Standards Alliance, along with Amazon and a bunch of other companies. So of course they were going to add Matter to their own stuff because they helped make the standard. So earlier this month they rolled out again, like I'm kind of confused because like I can't try any of this yet because I don't have anything that works as Matter, and most people don't. Like I don't know when this exactly happened. I know they started adding Matter stuff to the Google Home app before. That's like part of the Google Home redesign that they've been working on for a while. Um, they also added stuff in Android a while back. I think it was. I think I linked it into in this article. They said it was in October, where like if you have a Matter device you plug in, like you go to the store, you buy a light bulb, you come back, you plug it in, it will just show up as a device you can set up on an Android device, like FastPair. Like without you installing an app first, like it'll tell you what to do and stuff. So that's cool. So now Google has added Matter support to pretty much all their smart home stuff. So they rolled out the support to the original Google Home, the original Google Home Mini, all the Nest Minis, Nest Audio, Nest Hub, and the Nest Wi-Fi Pro, which is the router they just came out with that does Wi-Fi 6E, I think. Yeah. And when they launched it, they said it would have Matter support. They just weren't going to turn it on until like the spec was 100% done. So it has Matter support. I don't know exactly what that means. Google was not clear about that. Yeah. Matter is a bunch of different things. It makes setup easier. So like, with the Android thing, like if a device is plugged in, it's like broadcasting a signal that will tell other things around it how to set it up. There's a part of Matter that's supposed to let your devices just be controlled by many different software hubs. Like you set up a light in Alexa, and then you'd be able to manage that light in Alexa or Google Home or whatever else Apple stuff. This is all big for Apple because Apple never had a good smart home ecosystem. And there's other stuff in Matter where like it's focused on devices that don't directly connect to Wi-Fi. So like one of the other things is some stuff with Matter support can also be a I think it's called like a thread router, where basically it will act as a smart home hub for things that don't directly connect to Wi-Fi. So if I have like an Amazon Echo and it's next to a door lock that can't connect to Wi-Fi, because most of them can't do that because it drains battery, it will talk to the door lock and allowed to connect to the internet without like a bunch of other smart home stuff. Like you buy it and it won't connect to Wi-Fi. It needs like its own little special hub. The point of this is like anything can be a hub. Yeah. If it all uses like Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and stuff, which is cool. But there's not a lot of that yet. And again, Google didn't say what the support means. They did say, this is the only like specific detail they said, was that the Nest Wi-Fi Pro, Nest Hub Max, or second generation Nest Hub can be thread border routers. So they can act as hubs for things that can't directly connect to Wi-Fi, which is good. I don't know what the rest of the support means. Like, obviously, none of these companies are going... Like, Amazon made an announcement this past week, too, that was very similar. They rolled out Matter support to a lot of their Echo stuff. I don't know what that means exactly. Because, like, a lot of the benefits of Matter, like, these companies aren't doing them because it's not in their self-interest. Like, you're not going to be able to get a Google Home... Nest Mini and set it up in the Alexa app. That's not going to happen. Right. They're not going to connect the wires for that to happen. So it's like, what does Matter support mean? Like, does it just show up in the other apps and like it's just there, like make you aware that it's still plugged into the wall?
Logically, and I'm going just I'm saying, I'm prefixing this by saying logically, because let's be honest, when it comes to this stuff, logic is never ever the way it works. But logically, I feel like what's probably happening here is, just in the example you're giving, like, would a Nest Hub work with Alexa stuff. I'm assuming what it means is a Nest Hub, if it's going to be like a thread border, basically working like a hub, it'll basically just be, as far as Alexa stuff is concerned, it will just perceive this as a thread border. It will be there for routing, but it will have no other functionality unless they extend something like maybe you could use it as a speaker or something like that.
Like I get,
configuration and management of it is all going to be completely invisible to Alexa. Likewise, I'm sure all of Amazon stuff would be that way too. And I'm assuming that the roles of each of these devices is part of it's got to be part of what they communicate through Matter. I'm assuming. Like, can I play audio? Can I be a thread border? Can I be a display that you can send something to? I don't know if that's even part of Matter. I seem to remember that wasn't a thing in Matter. But
yeah, I have not done as much research on this as I should, partially because it won't matter for a long time.
Oh boy.
That was unintentional, but it came out of my mouth. But I do like Josh over at Review Geek wrote a really good editorial about Matter that I keep just linking to so I don't repeat it, but in a worse way. And he kind of talks about how he asked a lot of like the big smart home companies about like how they're integrating with Matter, and all of them are like not going all the way, and some of them are just like barely doing it. Like some of them will work, with some of them can be a thread router, some of them will talk to a thread router but won't act as one themselves. They talked to like Philips Hue, and Philips Hue would not allow any form of multi-admin control. So like you're not gonna set up your Philips lights in Google Home or vice versa.
You might be able to turn them on and off and control them, but you can't do the actual setup. They want you to still install the app,
or like all the options. Or like another thing about this multi-admin support is theoretically all the apps for these smart home things can talk to all the other apps. So like I could have my app for Philips Hue, and it will let me control my Google Home, or like Nest accessories. It can do that, but basically none of them are going to do that.
Yeah, but really only if the app itself also was going to try to take advantage of the various like roles or profiles or whatever they're called within Matter. Which I think realistically that wasn't going to be a thing anyway.
Yeah, and I was reading a question and answers from the Wise people a couple of months ago, and they were, people kept asking them about Matter support, and they were like, yeah, we're interested in it, but the Matter 1.0 specification does not have anything for security cameras.
Yeah,
like just not like it doesn't know what to do with them.
Well,
which is really weird.
It kind of so it kind of is and kind of isn't. From what I understand, and I have not been following this, so take everything I'm about to say with like a grain of salt that has been mashed into a fine powder. But my understanding is Matter 1.0, or rather the first Matter spec, I don't even want to call it 1.0 based on what I knew of it at the time, but the original Matter spec was effectively just, this is about lightweight communication between a bunch of embedded style devices. So this is good for door locks, it's good for turning lights on and off. It's good for little tiny things that don't need a lot of data throughput or anything like that. And they need to be but they're kind of designed for low power hardware. The obvious exception, of course, being thread routers, which they wanted to do so that they could ideally kind of put an end to having dedicated hubs, which have been since the beginning my biggest objection to any smart home stuff is if it requires a dedicated hub, it's dumb and needs to die. That said,
like, I think
from what I understand, anything having to do with video and I believe audio was really never part of the original spec, which means that the 1.0 spec probably doesn't have it, but I know that they were planning to add it in a future spec. I don't know if they're there yet. And I don't know. I don't know if they could have theoretically added it in the 1.0 spec. I didn't know at the time because the 1.0 spec, strictly speaking, is actually pretty new. They were still working on this up until I think last year. Like just working on what would be in it. And I don't think it was formalized until middle of this year?
They said it was done in, I believe, October or August.
Oh, okay.
October.
So late this year.
Yeah.
And that's formalization.
Which means, like,
strictly speaking, anyone could have been building against it even as early
like
as start of last year. But most companies don't want to do that when a lot of stuff could still change.
Yeah, and like there's just so much here that like there's not a whole lot of support for, like, this is just supposed to make like setup easier. It's supposed to make everything less reliant on cloud services, but it doesn't really do that. It's just annoying. So probably most people are just going to ignore it, and it will just slowly fade away. We'll be back to where we started.
I am not looking at it in quite that cynical of a sense, but close. I think that this is one of those things where they overpromised they didn't overpromise what it would do, but they implied that this is something that was going to happen in the perceivable future, so to speak. Like, this is one of those things where everyone read about it and thought, oh wow, Matter sounds awesome, I can't wait to do this in a year or 2 years. And the reality is, Matter is not going to be relevant. Yes, I avoided saying it. It's not going to be relevant for like 5 years, because it's going to be such a slow process to get everyone on the same page about what it can do, what it should do. Getting a few of those early adopters that aren't actually adopting it, getting those guys to say, okay, fine, we'll let you have a little bit more control from other apps. It won't just have to be our own. Like, pushing everyone to actually do this the way it needs to be done, that is going to be an incredibly long process. I said 5 years, honestly. I bet it takes longer than that. But yeah, every step of this is going to be such a slow rollout. It will eventually happen. This is kind of like RCS in that way. Like, they promised it was going to be a thing that was going to happen pretty quickly, and then it didn't happen quickly because carriers took forever, and then it didn't happen quickly because there's no external app support, and then you had to have devices that would support it because of Android version. Like, you couldn't just use it if you were on an old phone. Like, RCS in theory was one of those things that could have been rolled out in a year, and instead we still don't have it everywhere. And I don't even know how many years we're going now since RCS was kind of started, and because of that, they missed the boat. Matter is kind of in that same place where it needed to happen quickly. It needed to happen a while ago. And we're watching as they're just getting their legs underneath them way after the fact. Sorry, didn't mean to turn that into a speech, but there we go.
Well, I mean, it's all speeches, but yeah, I'm just, I don't know. I mean, I'm like kind of, there's not a lot of movement on smart home on stuff that I care about. Like, if Matter came out and it was like, this will 100% not rely on any cloud servers, I'd be like, okay. maybe it's not that. Or like this will 100%, you know, let you buy any hub and it works with like any of like I could buy a Samsung hub and then only use it with Google Home. It's like not really there quite yet, or you still need like Samsung for like part of it. It's I don't know. It's like it's just it's annoying. But yeah, like I don't, maybe it'll get better as like more stuff is built with it in mind, because like this is always the struggle with new standards, is like once something comes out there's like a rush of like all the stuff I buy, can this be updated for it, and the answer is usually no.
There's sort of 3 to 4 phases for products like this. Just to take what you're saying a step further, the first phase is, can my existing products be updated? The answer is usually just either no, or, well, there's an update, but it's not going to be very good. The second phase is, here are a bunch of products, they're designed for it. Not really designed for it. Like, you know, they have the logo on the box, and they technically have a couple of features, but they're not actually, like, there. They're not functional features. And then there's the third stage, which is usually the, oh no, we actually, like, we deserve to have the logo on the box because our product supports this thing. There might still be a fourth stage where it's like the third stage supports it, but not very well, and it's buggy, or it's based on an early spec. Like, a good example of this was early days of HDMI. Oh my god, if you saw how bad the HDMI specs were and the stuff that I've read a weird amount about this stuff. Holy crap, early HDMI was a disaster. It was such a mess. But later,
you know what this is like?
A lot of things.
This is like Thunderbolt.
yeah, Thunderbolt 2 or USB-C.
Does this cable I have, is it Thunderbolt? Is it USB-C? What speed Thunderbolt or USB is it?
Yeah, I mean, really every cable spec in history is a disaster.
Yeah, we need to stop making cables. That's what.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah,
this was a mistake.
But the point is, like, all of these things sound really good, and they are, or could be really good someday, but because companies are in a rush to get a product out, they don't do it very well, or they skip part of the spec, or they don't want to support all of the spec because they still have the mindset that it's better for them if they lock everything down. So I have a feeling that this is one of those things in 10 years. God, it sucks to have to set that sort of a timeline, but in 10 years, we're going to look back on Matter and go, oh good, it's a good thing they did this. Matter spec version 3 is actually worth having.
Yeah, or this, because like the other thing with Matter is that it's building on a thing that already existed, which was Thread. So now there's like a Matter thread that's better.
Yeah.
So we're building this concept of like everything in the smart home like kind of talks to each other. It doesn't necessarily need a Wi-Fi router or a stupid hub at like every single intermediary point. Like it can just be a mesh thing. So maybe like building in that mindset, this gets better. And like if the hardware is already in it that kind of supports this stuff, then that could get better later.
Yeah.
We'll see.
All things considered, my ideal version of a first generation Matter experience, I think those are the right words in the right order. My ideal for the first gen Matter experience really just is allow me to turn on and off any devices that are connected and let me have those connections happen without having to buy a SmartThings hub, without having to plug in a bunch of different extra hubs in little close localized areas. I just want to be able to plug, or I want to be able to take like a Nest Wi-Fi, or I don't know, whatever Wi-Fi hub out there. I want to be able to just plug in one of those somewhere close to devices, and whether they connect over Wi-Fi or some other protocol, I don't want to have to care about that. I just want them to connect and be friendly. Mostly because I don't want to plug in more devices. Seriously, I've looked around my house so many times over, well, years and years, but I have power strips plugged in to practically every outlet, and every power strip has almost every outlet taken. This is too much. I want fewer things plugged in. It's annoying as hell having this much stuff plugged in, and I don't like it. So, let's have fewer devices. That's, right now, to me, that is the single biggest must-have from Matter. And if it will work, that's great. If it doesn't work, then Matter's useless. As far as being able to control, like I don't care about taking my Philips Hue app. I don't have that installed. It's just, picking a name. I don't care about being able to take that app and controlling the Google Home. I get why some people want that, but it's not in my top list of things. However, I would like to be able to have one app that is able to say, for example, and I know I'm taking this a step further, and this is probably more of a Matter 2.0 kind of thing anyway, but I would love to have one app that I can say, I want to be able to start, well, we do have that app, it's called Google Assistant, but I want to be able to start playing a movie on my TV from whatever source, and I want this thing to be smart enough to say, all right, dim the lights, I don't know, lock the door, maybe not, maybe unlock the door, whatever. Turn off certain things that make noise and things like that. I want it to be able to, I want one app where I can program some automation. So again, basically right now that's Google Assistant. It'd be great if we didn't have to rely on Google Assistant. That, if anything, actually, that's what I kind of want to cut out of these equations.
Yeah.
I want less reliance on the voice assistant and more being able to automate it myself.
Or the ability for someone who is not Google or Amazon to take a shot at making a smart home management app.
Yes.
That could be interesting, because honestly, both of them are not that good at this.
No, they're kind of terrible, honestly.
The Alexa app is not good. It's really confusing. The Google Home app has been hot garbage for years. I haven't tried the new redesigned one. I don't know if that's better. I'm assuming it probably can't be that much better, because
it's better.
Yeah.
I
know this is like I'm not expecting like someone else to like make something significantly better, because this is like the iTunes problem where, great, you made an app that needs to do like 500 things. It's not going to be good, but maybe someone else can try. Like there's this like like Apple home, smart home app that I've never touched on any of the Apple things I've bought recently, because Apple doesn't have a smart home ecosystem.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Which to date, that still actually confounds me. Apple is the one company I thought was going to really just walk in and kind of own that space, and holy crap, they just really didn't. Nobody wants to build stuff that's compatible with HomeKit.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the thing with HomeKit was. I just know that like occasionally I see people like, oh, I've waited for years to buy this one thing, and none of the other products are viable because none of them did HomeKit.
My hunch, I don't know that this is the case. I'm just going off of Apple being Apple, but my absolute hunch on this is I would almost bet money they probably took their licensing program for like Infi and decided to apply that to all of the smart home stuff, and all of those companies were like, you know what? nah, we're not gonna pay you some astronomical price to put your logo on our box.
Yeah.
Especially since a lot of those companies, honestly, a lot of the smart home companies, they're making products that have surprisingly low margins, and they don't
I'm not
sell
quite
a
sure
lot of
how.
them.
Yeah, like I'm not sure how TP Link can sell like $1 smart plugs for this long.
I know.
Like, okay, like is it mining crypto? What is it doing?
Yeah.
It's got to be some.
Well, and to some extent, like I think what's happening is so many of these companies recognize like it's a good market to be in. It's a good market for them to make money on. But they're selling products people are going to buy today and not replace for like 7 years.
Yeah.
So you buy a smart plug today, guess what? And unless you need a plug that has higher capacity or I don't know, some new feature or protocol, the reality is you bought that plug today, you don't need to replace that plug ever. It's probably just going to keep remaining good until your house burns down or there's some new standard or protocol that you need to support and that plug just won't get an update for it. And the same is kind of true for almost everything. Like people buying security cameras today, chances are, unless like you need the battery in the camera to stay good, that camera is probably just going to keep staying good for indefinitely. Like most of the hardware you're getting for smart home stuff, it doesn't go bad and it doesn't really go out of functional value until such a time comes that you're not allowed to use it anymore. So it's hard to make money in this industry, and if you also have Apple trying to take a big cut off your products, you're just not into it. So Apple, I think, kind of lost any potential for momentum on that.
Yeah, so we'll see how it goes. I'm just. I haven't seen anything compelling with this yet, and every time I try to read about it, it's more complicated. It feels like the handful of times where I try to learn a new programming language. I don't want to learn new things. Why doesn't this just work?
So, I guess my question is, if setting aside the pains of writing about it, what do you want Matter to do, or what do you want it to be right now? And just acknowledging that there are still going to be some early day limitations, like maybe they aren't going to try to do video streaming over the network.
Yeah.
Like there will be a few things that they're not ready to handle yet. But what do you want it to be? What do you see being your ideal version of Matter 1.0 and what it enables?
I mean, I think like I've never been huge into smart home stuff. I still only have like at this moment I have a couple smart plugs and a thermostat that came with the apartment that I only figured out how to get paired to my smart hub like a year after moving here. So I'm not like super big into this. I would like something that's more built to run locally. Like best case scenario would be something that I can control, that like everything just talks to each other over like Bluetooth if necessary. So like, you know, if my internet ever goes out and it can't even talk to a remote server, like it keeps working, that'd be nice. Really, it's like all the issues I keep seeing with smart home, it kind of boils down to like, oh yeah, like Amazon, East 1 went down at 3 a.m. and all my lights turned on and they won't turn back off. Like that's the kind of thing that's just completely silly and should have been addressed by now. It's like that'd be cool. This other stuff about like not being locked into one specific ecosystem is also cool, but that's almost never been a technical problem. That's just been a capitalism problem. Like Amazon will sell you their $1 smart plug that only works with Alexa because they want to keep you in Alexa. So that never really struck me as a problem that we need a super complex mesh or like multi-admin control thing for. That's just a That's just a company being, as proven now by the fact that this exists and companies are not going all the way.
I, I will slightly add to that. I don't now. Okay, I generally don't want to have to install apps to set up every individual type of thing, but moreover, I really don't want to have to use the same app over and over again to control a particular thing, like a smart plug. Chances are a smart plug has two states, on and off, and I really don't want to have to keep, I don't know, let's say TP-Link's app installed just to control that one thing. And fortunately, through voice assistants and IFT to a limited degree, we don't have to do that, but I would love it if Matter made that completely unnecessary. Ideally, I don't even want to have to install the app, but if that's a necessity, fine. I can install it, but let me uninstall it. Let me not have to install it on every device. That's really key there. I can deal with installing for one. I don't want to have to install it on everything. This is a big deal. I do like your local, your point about locality.
Yeah.
Because,
like, yeah, and there's like, I know there's like Home Assistant and other systems kind of built for this, but like, it'd be good. You'd think this would be in like one of, if I was like TP-Link or Philips Hue, like you'd think this would be one of the biggest things you focus on, because like, I don't, like, if I'm a big company, I don't want to run a server that costs me millions of dollars a year just to relay, you know, you turned your lights on and off. That's a pain in the ass.
I doubt they're anywhere near millions of dollars per year, but okay.
Yeah. It's just, it's very, it's annoying. But like right now I've got my I've just been using SmartThings as my portal again for like the 3 smart home things I have. So I can control the plugs through the internet, and then my thermostat is Zigbee, so it talks directly to the hub. So that's like fine. Again, like you said, it'd be nice if the hub didn't exist, because I already have a hub. It's called my router. So should just use that. But
upon thought, what I would so yeah, the locality thing, this is one of the reasons I actually originally picked LifeX, because LifeX bulbs, I think technically they have not done away with this, but they've maybe deprecated it. But LifeX, you could actually get basically a developer token, and you could control them locally. The API was a bit limited compared to what you could do over a server, but you did have this capability. I don't know that it still works. I'm not sure how it operates now. I was doing it though locally, where I actually had a widget on my Mac that I could just, like, back when what was the old thing called? That, like, dashboard. It was a dedicated desktop screen where you could load widgets on.
Dashboard.
Was it called Dashboard? Okay.
Like 80% sure it was Dashboard.
Yeah, that's probably right. Anyway, yeah, I had a dashboard widget that it was a fairly ugly widget, but I could just swipe over to it, click one button, and it would turn on and off that light, and I could set the color. Yeah, I could set the color. I don't think it had color temperature support or something like that, but anyway. Yeah, it was a useful feature, and it did work when the server wasn't accessible. So that was kind of nice. That was a really useful function. I don't think that exists anymore, and even if it did, no one's building software to do that anymore. So I have lost this control. There's still apps for it, but none of them tie into the current version of widgets, which angers me so much that Apple screwed that up. And I don't have faith that they're ever going to make, or that they aren't going to switch to another form of widgets later, because that is such an Apple thing to do. But yeah. Anyway, I do definitely want some local control. That's a good thing.
Yeah, especially in this fun time we're having, where we're having more natural disasters than ever that take out internet. Or, a month ago, some jackass shot some power transformers around here, and an entire county lost power for a week. It'd be really nice if most of the engineers working on this took that into consideration and said, okay, how can we build something that doesn't have a single point of failure?
Yes.
It kind of seems to me like Matter has more points of failure, but again, I should probably read more about this before I make such conclusions from this technology. I won't be going to CES, so I can't like go find a human who works at Philips or something and be like, can you explain all this to me?
You wouldn't find one there anyway.
Yeah. Sell this to me, please. Make me buy something.
Honestly, so many of the things you just said are just signaling like, no, argue with him over this.
Yeah. Because you can't, because my dog's over here about to eat my face if she doesn't go outside momentarily.
Right. I'll just very, very quickly say this. One, I don't think you're going to find anybody at CES that has any idea what they're talking about, because it is just all the PR people. It's all marketing and PR. They don't send engineers to this anymore. Outside of like maybe the audio companies occasionally do, but that's
right, like the really, really nerdy ones.
Yeah.
Like if Canonical goes there or someone, or like Red Hat, they're gonna send at least one nerd who will tell you how Docker works or something.
Exactly. But for the most part, anyone operating those booths they're just because like they do marketing. I don't even remember what the other thing I was going to say is, so I'll let that one lie.
I'm sure it was very smart.
It was.
Good point, Cody.
Yes. Yay. Okay. I'll edit something in later so that your good point, Cody, comes after the really smart, intelligent thing.
Of course, that's what I do on Tech Tales.
I know.
I just every minute I put in a wow, Corbin, you're so smart. Oh, she just hit her head on my desk. Okay. You want to say bye, Daisy? You want to say bye? You want to say bye? She doesn't like this. Whee! There she is.
And she can't hear me anyway, but bye, Daisy.
No.
She can see me waving at least if she would look at me.
Yeah.
Hey, she kind of did for a glancing second. Bye, Daisy.
Bye, Daisy. Okay, you have to get in there. Okay. All right, I'm going. Bye, everyone.
Take it easy, man.
I have a lot of dog hair on me now.
Congrats. Okay. So let's see. Oh, I should have said Merry Christmas to him, but oh well. Let's see. So I don't have much else to hit, but Austin, you did provide me the classic. Oh wow. They did the thing again. That thing. Let's get on the right. Yeah, this. Okay, so I don't know that this particular site needed to cover it, but yeah, so the Pixel 6a and Pixel 7 Pro took top slots in the blind camera test. This is of course MKBHD's. Is it yearly at this stage? I feel like this happens more than once a year, but maybe it just feels that way. So basically stacking up a bunch of different phones, trying to decide who is the best. And I'm sure that if I go looking, oh, you know what? I want to see what the brackets are more than anything. Can we find... Perfect. Wow. Found that pretty quick. Okay, so the funny thing about this is I bet most of this you probably could sit down and just look at them and say, oh yeah, we know exactly how these are going to turn out. Were there two brackets? Or is this from an old one? It's got to be from an old one. Because the two phones that won weren't even in that bracket. Okay, can we get... Or is this not even bracketed? I saw something about we built a site. I'm gonna... Okay, I might have to actually watch this. Yeah, okay, so from the look of it, they did a best of different types of photo kind of thing. Like, did it happen at night? Did it happen or low light? Is it best detail? I'm guessing. I'm not really sure what the metrics are, but still they picked winners. So that stands out. Okay, so I will go look at this later. Anyway, so all right. But what could we safely assert just looking at the list? For one, nothing phone 1 stood no chance. I think we know this. The Find X5 Pro, not really much of a chance either. Let's see. Who are the other duds in this? The Apple iPhone SE. Please get real. There wasn't a chance for that. Some of these are fillers that probably shouldn't have even been there. Let's see. Were there any folding phones? Because the folding... Okay, I don't see any folding phones in the list. But that would have been another good example of don't include them. They didn't stand a chance. Anyway, so the Pixel 7 Pro was in the list, and the Pixel 6a. Wait, are those the only two they included? I might have to read closer on this to get the details, because it seems strange that those are the only two included when, like, why? Oh, wait, it's just from this year. Never mind. I was about to say, why the hell would you only include those two when there's, like, a Pixel 6 Pro? Well, that was last year's phone, so yeah, I guess that makes sense. So, anyway, yeah, looking over the list, I would have to, I guess, look at the comparisons to come up with any judgments, because I haven't seen too many details about some of these different phones. I'm not too surprised by a few of them, because some of these aren't really phones for taking, like, straight out of the camera shots. The one I'm looking at in particular is the Xperia 1.4. Sony makes some really good phones, but man, you gotta take their photos into editing before you release them. Like, that's just the thing. They're not doing a ton of post-processing to really clean up the image, which, you know, that's reasonable. A camera purist is going to be really happy about that. A smartphone shooter is not. Let's see. I don't know enough about it, but I have this sneaking suspicion that the Moto Edge 30 Ultra probably didn't stand a chance either. I don't remember if Realme competes well on photos. Oh, Asus Info 9. Actually, I didn't even notice that one earlier. That one wouldn't have stood a chance either. Asus doesn't do photos very well. And the ROG Phone 6. They had two entries in here, I'm sure both of which were probably low ranking. So yeah, this is neat, but I'll have to look into it further to really form an opinion. That said, just think back to Just think back to like a decade ago when, well, was it a decade ago? Yeah, actually it was almost exactly a decade ago when what's his name, the then CEO of Google, was standing up there telling people that they were going to make the best cameras in a smartphone. That was a promise they made, and it took a while, but they got there. They did it. they they dwarfed Apple. They easily kicked Samsung's butt on this, and everyone else who's tried competing, even Sony, the company that made the sensors for the phones for many, many years, can't seem to compete. And here we have Sony, a company that's put 1-inch sensors into their phones and not able to compete. So yeah, that's quite the accomplishment. That said, let's see. I'll have to. I'll watch the video and I'll check out some more details. Maybe this will make it into like a weekend discussion. So it, in a weird way, I'm actually glad that they killed the bracket. I know brackets are all nice and fun and everything, but it would be, it, to be fair, it does, it is good for social media to have brackets. So in a weird way, I think I'm almost impressed by the fact that they're giving up on the easy way to make attention with this, and they're actually doing it the right way, or a better way. I did also, just kind of visually skimming as I was talking, I noticed this sentence: the Sony Xperia 1 IV and Moto Edge 30 Ultra were widely voted as the worst cameras by almost all measurements. Yep. Moto, because they don't care about the camera for anything. They have shown that they don't care about the camera. And then Sony Xperia 1 IV, because again, it is a technically good capture, but man, they do not post-process very much, and that means that you need to be the one who does it. So yeah, Sony is not the... If you're taking an image straight out of camera, not editing it at all, not even like running it through like a little bit of color correction and like tossing it as Snapseed, maybe something like that. If you're not doing anything to the image, Sony's gonna lose. Which sucks, but that's the deal. Not that it matters all that much, but if I scroll down just a little bit, this almost looks like, just the way that it's all framed up, and there's that blurry bit on the far right side of this image, I look like the bottom of every site that has like Taboola ads in it. Like all the go to other sites to read stories about blank. Like that's kind of what the bottom of this frame looks like right now. So yeah, weird. Let's see. So anyway, yep, I will look into that later. To my knowledge, there's not really anything else to talk about. I know there was other news this week. Like I said, there was Elon stuff. At this point, it's been talked to death by everyone in political circles and tech circles and everywhere else. I don't think there's... I'm sure there's more I could say. I'm sure I could add to that discussion, but what for? There's not... Nobody needs more of that. Elon has absolutely sunk himself with this whole endeavor. Funny enough, I do think that if he actually steps down and appoints a new CEO, that actually would be really good. but he seems to want somebody who would presumably sink their life savings into it, which, good luck with that, bud. You're not gonna find somebody who's willing to take the disaster you just created and make it their own sinking ship. That said, I'll tell you what, I'll offer my life savings to run Twitter. You'll pay me more in a couple of days than what I'd be putting in, but hey, there you go. Tom from MySpace. Actually, you know what? Tom could probably run it pretty well. Anyway, yeah, I kind of hope that he is dumb enough to just keep pushing forward, though. The faster Twitter sinks itself, the better off everybody is. And if it comes back, well, it won't come back. Like, too many people have committed themselves to moving on. And short of somebody stepping in and saying, nope, we're banning all the, we're re-banning all the crazies. They all have to go. And we're gonna fix these dozen or so things that Elon screwed up in the process. And we're gonna beg at a massive financial loss. We're gonna beg a whole bunch of people to come back and work for the company again because they at least knew they knew how to keep it operational. Yeah, we're going to have to fix a bunch of stuff on the way, but at least these guys can keep it running in the meantime. We won't have any more weird stuff like two-factor authentication failing or, I don't know, all the other stuff that has just magically kind of gone down and come back up and barely survived, but probably won't for much longer. Yeah. I just don't really see a future where Twitter comes back. And then that's probably for the best. But with that, I think it's probably time to end this one. It's 5 o'clock. That's probably a good stopping time anyway. So let's see. This weekend should be gaming. Pretty safe bet on that one. There is, as always, some chance I'll be doing like a random photo edit stream. I know I keep saying it. It might actually happen someday. Let's see. Trying to think. Is there any other special thing? I guess that does actually have me streaming on Christmas, doesn't it? Not crazy, right? Yeah, so I guess Christmas Day, so that'll be Sunday. Christmas Eve is Saturday. My streaming days happen to overlap with Christmas, so is anyone even going to be around? I might ask about that in Discord and find out if people are going to be around. Because if everyone's going to be doing their own things and not watching, I may try to do something else. Or I may figure something else out. I don't know. I'll think on it. But yeah, let's see. In the meantime, Austin, you'll be away for the most part. Yeah, I have a funny feeling most people will be. I know Carson's probably not going to be around. David might be. He has been a lot, so that, or I might try doing something at different hours just because. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, yeah, I'll have to think about it. In general, right now I think it's fairly likely I'll still be streaming, but in the offhand chance that I'm not, well, we will find out then. But yeah, so with that, thanks to everyone for coming by. Thanks to Austin for being the main chat man today. Let's see. Thanks to anyone who also comes along and watches this later. I believe Kirby has been catching the streams late at night, though I don't know for sure. And well, I would do the typical spiel, but you know it. Support, links down below. Austin already does. So cheers, dude. You're awesome. Let's see what else. Oh yeah, and I'll check out. I will check out the MKBHD camera stuff later and dig into that. Oh, as a little quick side note, just because I linked to it earlier, the ProShot app. Funny enough, that was actually that it is free today and tomorrow on both iOS and Android. Funny thing about that is I was actually like, that was the very next thing I was going to buy when I stacked up a little bit of Google Play credit. So yay, now I don't have to. That's weirdly convenient. Yeah, Austin, you kind of beat me to it, but yes, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, all the good tidings, blessings. I don't know, whatever the words. I've lost words. They're not coming to me as quickly or easily as they should be. But with that, thanks everyone for coming by. I hope you all have an excellent rest of the week, excellent weekend, holidays, whatever it may be. And with that, good night, everybody.